All right, are we back? Oh my God, hatujapewa countdown. Sasa tunaangaliana tunashindwa, tuko hapa, tuko. Are we or are we not? Oh my goodness. Okay.
We check the newspapers.
Yeah, in faith that
we are back. And this is Hope at Dawn. In case you are asking, this is Hope at Dawn right here at Hope TV. This is the only station actually where you look and you live.
Absolutely.
And it's time indeed for the newspaper review. My name is George Gishoro.
And my name is Beatrice Nudi. Welcome once again. It's time for us to peep at the newspapers. This is always important for us to know what is happening in our nation, to keep praying and to speak life to our nation as well. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for keeping it Hope TV right here. And continuing, just to let us know that, you know, we are still in the morning, but even still in the confusion. And that is on the DNA. Parents to wait for a month for pupils' identity. A month is such a long time.
Month of agony, not knowing
it is very, very sad. Not knowing if yours is among the ones who are there or the ones who were lost. You don't even know. Caregivers of pupils who perished in a school fire will have to wait a bit to bury their children as debate on boarding schools resurfaces. And just getting down to it, of course, Pius Murugu, Central Regional Commissioner, is saying we need to bring normalcy back to the school. We need to bring pupils back to school as soon as possible. And, you know, even as we are going through the mourning and the process. I mean, the last thing people are even thinking about is bringing those people back to school. I mean, people want clarity. They want closure as well. So it is really, really sad. And of course, still seeing here, on the same is that the one parent, actually parents who wish to have a private pathologist have been given a leeway to do so. Another parent said they were told that the DNA results will take 30 days to be out because the samples will be airlifted to South Africa. And you wonder why? So the government reiterated its commitment to cater for DNA sampling costs for including the burial expenses. The regional commissioner said the school will remain a crime scene as officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations try to crack the cause of the fire. The government will assess the school to determine when the institution will be opened. And this is a story covered on page 2, which is really, really unfortunate. And according to Mwangi, 15 parents already availed themselves for DNA testing, while 2 others visited the venue later, and another 2 sent their apologies, which is said matches with the number of pupils who were burnt in the inferno that occurred between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning. And
that is a story also that is covered on the front page. Actually, it's the lead story right here at the on the front page of the Daily Nation. 5 days of anguish. Parents who have been waiting for 5 days to know the fate of their children. They are in agony as the painstaking DNA analysis on casualties of the Hillside and Arusha fire begin. Yesterday, they turned up at Narumoru Hospital mortuary as they sought to know whether their children are among the dead or not through tests likely to take some time. It's on page 4 and 5. And this tragedy, 140 parents have confirmed they have their children at home. However, there are still parents who are saying they don't know the whereabouts of their children. And we have 4 faces here, very troubled faces of parents and guardians of some of the children. Elizabeth Nderito, whose nephew Bernard Warutere has been missing following the tragedy. John Mwangi, father of Ernest Ngaruya, 11. Simon Gakuo's 12-year-old son is also missing. Josephine Wanjiro's son, Kent Mungai, 13, has not been seen since the tragedy. Sad story, which is covered on pages 4 and 5 inside the Daily Nation. It's all doom and gloom as parents present DNA samples for forensic analysis to identify pupils who are burnt beyond recognition on Saturday night at Hillside Endarasha Academy in Nyeri County. And we have some innocent faces of some of the children who are still missing, and also those who lost their lives after that very tragic incident.
It's very tragic.
It has now been confirmed by the authorities that the ill-fated dormitory had 164 pupils, as opposed to the 156 that had been reported initially. We pray for comfort and peace for this family, because you can't even imagine
what is
these
going
parents
through their
and
hearts,
guardians are experiencing this period.
Yeah, and in fact, this has actually stirred up a debate, because page 6 here says Hillside tragedy revives debate on whether learners should board. Many argue that children below grade 9 and below should do day school, but proponents say some regions have schools very far apart. So that has also raised the debate of, okay, if at all they are grade 9 and below, should they even be in boarding schools? This has definitely changed the trajectory of even what parents believe to be ideal for the pupils, because, you know, most of the time, you know, we imagine and we believe that them being in boarding school helps them to be mature, it helps them to do all these things. But then if these things are happening,
that's something I've never agreed with. That you need to take your children to a boarding school for them to be mature, to be responsible. No, not all of them who went to boarding school actually turned up the way they're trying to explain. So anyway, it's a debate that will continue. Let's see how far it goes. But of course, I can tell you for free, it will just die down after everything has been sorted at Russia. Then, God forbid, we pick it up again after another tragedy.
But we are going to speak life.
Exactly.
But we will speak life. We will speak life over this nation. And we believe that, I mean, you know, I believe words have power.
True.
So we keep speaking life over this nation, and that we pray that, you know, this situation will be cracked and we will know exactly what happened and justice will be served, because nothing about this is right. And of course, I see here Emmanuel Munyasa, an education expert and the director of Usawa Agenda, argues the fire incident was a blatant ignorance of the set safety guidelines for schools, saying that a lot of our boarding schools are not adhering to the guidelines that were provided by the ministry to ensure the safety of learners. And because of that, the age is not really standing and the tragedies are just bound to arise, said Dr. Munyasa. And he argues that it is going to be possible to do away with boarding schools, especially for young children in the arid and semi-arid areas where schools are 50 kilometers apart and the terrain is unfavorable for commuting. A story on page 6. And still on tragedies, I see gone without a trace. Where do missing or abducted people go? The question in the air. Human rights lobbies say abductions are part of tactics used by the state to create fear. DCI insists it carries out arrest in line with Article 49 of the Constitution. And of course, we know about River Yala, which is unraveled in holding dark memories for families who went to witness the recovery of bodies they believed to be their relatives. And some of the bodies that were identified from the area morgue belong to people who had cases in court, and their families believe the police had a hand in their death. Read about that particular feature that is on page 7 of the Standard. And still on the top page of the Standard, I see why NEP leaders snapped DP's current meeting. We also have a Chinese look to Nairobi for investment. That's on the business page 23. And I see something here on the Financial Standard, pressure on banks to trim interest rates. And coming to page 3, I see innovative technology boost hospital deliveries in nomadic regions. This is a very good and interesting story. The gadget in the form of a beaded bracelet is issued at a hospital to pregnant women. This allows health providers to track women during pregnancy and also childbirth. And this is in the dusty roads and clear sky of Marsabit, because that is an area that sometimes, especially when it comes to pregnant mothers about to give birth, they have to travel long distances and they don't really get the help that they need. So there is an invention, a gadget that now is going to aid in that. And that's a story on page 3 of the Standard. And page 4, Masengeli unfit to hold public office, lawyers say of defiant IG. Acting police boss has ignored court summons 7 good times. As the court waited for him, it was business as usual for the IG. This is a story on page 4. Court contempt, acting IG to know his fate on Friday after guilty verdict. Lawrence Mugambi, High Court judge here, saying Masengeli's action of willfully disobeying court orders undermine the supremacy of the law and the administration of justice. A failure to appear in court amounts to direct contempt. And then moving on, that is to page 8. I see here that it's not 188 billion shillings, but 188 million shillings, and it's all legal, says the firm in tax battle. So Jubilee government in 2018 offered tax amnesty to manufacturers to spur economic growth. And in a twist to suit challenging incentives to Blue Nile, new evidence shows Treasury and AG gave it a clean bill of health. A story that is well covered on page 8. And lastly, looking at the national pages, I see Ishungwa Meru MPs dismiss Gachagwa's Mount Kenya unity call. Leader of majority says the DP's campaign is aimed at undermining President Ruto. But more MPs have defended the deputy president, saying that he really should be respected. And going to the Financial Standard today, I see incessant blackouts. Which way for Kenya's aging power network? A story that is continued from page 20. And I see a second power outage in less than a month highlights the growing unreliability of the country's electricity distribution system, with most of the key lines needing urgent replacement. I think we have had issues of late of just lights going off. I think, is it yesterday that we had a kind of like a blackout that lasted, I don't know how long.
Last week as well.
Yeah, last week as well.
Friday.
Yeah,
Friday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, we did have another blackout. So this is 2 in less than a month. So this is really, really bad. And you can only imagine things that have to be stalled because of the power outage. It's really a big deal. So which way for Kenyans aging power network? Maintenance ndo hakuna ama shida ni ipi? Hatujui. But let me go quickly to the sports page. It's 901 goals and counting for Ronaldo. Ronaldo strikes late to seal Portugal win over Scotland in Nations League tie. 10-man European champion Spain sink Switzerland in Geneva. A story on page 40. And page 39, Paris Paralympics close with a party after historic summer. And also page 38, why Queens are in pole position to win National 7th Circuit. Kenya Harlequin stand KCB on Sunday to win Driftwood 7th. Queens now lead a national log with 97 points, followed by Cabra's Sugar on 88. And that's it for the Standard.
Right, let's look at other stories covered on the Daily Nation. Mohamed Dida, you remember him? It may not ring a bell, but he once vied for the country's presidency once. He was very hilarious as well. So Mohamed Dida is serving 7 years in jail. In the US. So the former teacher who twice ran for president and finished ahead of some established politicians is serving a 7-year sentence in a US prison. Dida is held at the Big Muddy Correctional Center in Illinois, where he has been since November 18, 2022, after being found guilty of stalking and intimidating an unidentified individual in the Midwestern U.S. state. Wow.
7 years.
Yeah, 7 years. So you can read that story on page 3. I also see Gachagua to Ruto address these 6 grievances. DP Gachagwa's camp has framed 6 grievances causing unease in government as allies of President Ruto plot how to counter the DP's growing influence amid discontent in Mount Kenya. Gachagwa's campaign to rally the region appears to be winning him new allies, with Murang'a Senator Joe Nyoto and Gatanga MP Edward Mureu, the latest of his fierce critics to switch camp. So you can read those grievances on page 7 Police have been spying on judge in Masengeli's case. Now, apparently, a senior police officer, Lazarus Opicho, ordered to appear before court on Friday to explain why he was calling Lawrence Mugambi's driver and bodyguard, seeking to know his whereabouts. So apparently, according to this judge, police were spying on him, even as he was making a determination on acting IG Masengeli's case. Now, the top officer has court date to explain why he inquired about the judge's whereabouts, and actually the judge actually went ahead to say that the IG has a case to answer in as far as contempt of court is concerned, and the ruling will be made on Friday this week. So police chief found guilty of contempt of court. He is to appear in person for sentencing on Friday. And of course, this is in relation to a case where 2 people or 3 people were abducted. They're still not known where they are. And yeah, it's unfortunate because can you imagine now even trying to threaten a judge? Sembuse Sisi, innocent, innocent and don't have even bodyguards. It's a story on page 8. University students defy their leaders, stage demos of a new funding model. Leaders accused of being compromised by the government to call off the protests. So CS has said he will set up 2 committees to review the controversial model. So students from at least 5 universities yesterday held demonstrations protesting the new higher education funding model in defiance of their leaders. You read that back page of The Nation. And also I see the High Court has directed the Ministry of Education to set up the Education Standards and Quality Assurance Council within 60 days. Justice Lawrence Mugambi yesterday further said the ministry should appoint officers to the council as required by Section 64 of the Basic Education Act. Looking at some other stories inside the Daily Nation, the DN2 powering SME pullout brewing change as the country modernizes and urbanizes. There is a burgeoning interest in health-focused and specialty teas, reflecting an evolving tea culture that honors both tradition and innovation. It's a story on page 2 and 3. And the DN2 Healthy Nation, the fight to live. When Emmanuel Mbuthia opened up about his struggles, he discovered many people are silently facing the same challenges. His journey goes beyond personal survival. It's about changing the narrative on suicide. Pages 4 and 5 on that pullout as well. From the counties, I see stop counties from taking costly loans, senators told. Auditor General says devolved units are committing funds that they do not have. Counties' own source revenue collection remains low. Residents up in arms over sewage stench, that is in Homa Bay County. Bride price and politicians fueling rift clashes. MPs, they are saying an MP's investigation has revealed how steep bride price and politicians arming criminals are the main causes of banditry and insecurity in 6 North Rift counties. You can read that on page 20. I also see from the international scene, Russia turns to American social media stars to influence voters. Russian media outlet RT's 2 ex-staff face criminal charges, U.S. Justice Department says. And abducted Tanzanian opposition official found dead, acid poured on face. What? That's a story on page 22. The business section. MPs want paperwork on 14 billion shillings cash printing deal. House team has demanded documents before a meeting with the CBK governor. And shippers failed to halt new rules activated by Joho. And I also see investor unveils passenger lounge at Moi Airport. Then I see this from the sports page, growing calls for overhaul as Team Kenya returns from Paralympics. Aileen Belcher Trophy turns 87 in great style. That's on page 29. It was a horrifying scene. Cheptegei siblings reveal details of attack on athlete. That's on page 30. I see junior starlets step up preparations for next month's FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup. And Stars aim to silence home team Namibia in Joburg tonight. Kenya's coach Firat to miss service of keeper Olunga and defender Omija due to injury. 2025 AFCON qualifiers, Harambee Stars seeking first win to get their campaign back on track. Remember their opening match against Zimbabwe, it ended in a barren draw. And the Kenyans sued FIFA at CAS and FKF came into being. It's on page 31. And finally, the Business Daily, Old Mutual disowns 3.9 billion shillings buildings in shareholder row. I also see Mbadi's condition for Kenyans to enjoy lower VAT and corporate tax. So you will have to wait for revenue collections to improve and also the public debt burden reduced before you can enjoy the lower tax rates proposed by the Treasury. I also see electricity prices dip 22% in 9 months to September. Data shows driven by lower foreign exchange and fuel costs. Over half of Hustler Fund borrowers default as bad loans rise. So more than half of borrowers under the Financial Inclusion Fund or Hustler Fund have defaulted on repayments totaling 11 billion shillings, underscoring the challenge the government faces trying to recover the money. All we can tell you is all the best.
Oh my goodness, you know, it's interesting how Hustler Fund would be introduced, knowing the nature of Kenyans when it comes to borrowing and paying back. I mean, the numbers do not lie of the people who have defaulted loans. What makes us think?
Financial institutions, if you're defaulting on financial institutions.
Man, sembuse hii ya Ruto kwanza, in fact people can take it na hasira.
Hasira sana.
Acha nichukue.
Actually, Sam, I had people who are saying that, tunachukua hii ni pesa yetu actually. So,
they are taking back their money.
So this is my share.
Oh my, quite unfortunate. But anyway, that's what is being reported on our dailies this morning. I do hope you've gotten to be informed, and now we know also how to pray. So right about now, we're going to pave way for the video of the day. So let's have a look at it, and then we'll talk about it.